everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of Gamers Without Borders. This is TestZero, and with me today is Ozzie Arcane.
Hello.
And back from his brief hiatus, we have Johnny Chase back in the house.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about bugs and glitches. Now, there is a difference between the two. A bug is an error where the game does exactly what it's supposed to, but that's not what the developers intended. It's an actual problem with the programming. Like, the programming was flawed. A glitch, on the other hand, is when the game doesn't operate as intended. Like there's lag, there's corrupted data, or just something doesn't work right. Glitches tend to be a lot more random, whereas bugs could often be triggered at will through a specific set of actions. And we all have stories, but who wants to go first?
I guess I could go first. Just considering my recent purchase of Fallout 3 on the PC.
Oh, yes.
I knew that there were compatibility issues with Windows 7, but there were supposed to be fixes for it that people had online, because, you know, Bethesda can't be bothered to patch that shit anymore. That's an old game. We gotta worry about the new stuff, right? I tried running it, you know, because I knew there were fixes, but I wanted to see if it would run first, because not everybody encounters the problems that they have with it. And got through the opening cutscene, then black screen. Nothing else.
That seems to be a really common problem with PC games, that if it runs fine for you, that's not a guarantee that it's going to run okay for everybody. That's one thing that consoles really kind of have over the PCs. It's a set hardware. So if there's a problem with it, you can usually generally figure out what it is. But if it's a problem on the PC version, you have no fucking clue if it's your software or if it's their operating system or if there's some other program running in the background that's conflicting with it. You have no fucking clue.
Yeah. But then I downloaded the unofficial patch because, you know, Bethesda themselves aren't patching in Windows 7 support for the thing. So I downloaded the unofficial patch, which got me a little bit further. The opening birth scene where you hear your character crying as they're being born started, and then it froze.
So you keep getting boarded at birth.
Yeah,
Maybe you're playing the Chinese patch. Have you tried being born as a guy?
I didn't get far enough to where you even get to choose your gender. The last fix I could try that I haven't done yet is to run a mod to disable the Games for Windows Live client on Fallout 3.
Fallout 3 runs in Games for Windows Live?
Yes.
Oh,
it's the only game I think Bethesda did that with, and I'm kind of reluctant to do that because I did want to actually get the achievements from it, but if I'm not going to be able to play the game otherwise.
Well, I heard that they are going to discontinue Games for Windows Live as a purchase service.
Yeah, the store is going to be going down like in a month, I think.
No, it's a month from next year.
But in any case, yeah, it doesn't. And the thing is, I've seen all kinds of conflicting reports about getting the game working. Because, you know, as I said, some people can run it without even using any of the fixes. And actually, one of the problems is, unless you change the INI file, if you have higher than a 2-core processor, the game would try to utilize all your cores at once and would cause itself to just lock up because it doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Bethesda has always had really nasty bugs in that sense. That I ran into a lot of problems running Oblivion. I couldn't even close out the game without it crashing. And I actually had to find a file, I think it's called like Old Oblivion, and it runs it in a like compatibility mode for an earlier version of Windows.
Yeah.
And that actually lets you close out of the game without it crashing, because every damn time I closed out, it would crash. And the problem with that is I couldn't change any of the options in-game, because when I changed the options in-game and tried to save them, it would only save the INI file when you close it down. So, and it would crash whenever you tried to do that.
That's kind of the thing that scares me about the games developed by Bethesda and Obsidian, is that they tend to crash a lot, and there's like a lot of these like really weird glitches and bugs and a lot of game-breaking stuff. It's kind of put me off of playing anything by them, like anything from the Fallout or Elder Scrolls series.
Well, you have to keep in mind, these games are still getting like 9.5 out of 10, like 19 out of 20. They're getting amazing scores, even with all these incredibly prevalent game-breaking bugs. So that really says a lot to how well these worlds are crafted.
Although we can say one thing. never buy any of those games on the PS3. Like you
Oh,
can try them
God.
on PC, you can try them on PC or Xbox 360, but do not, for the love of God, do not try to play them on a PS3. Bethesda does not know how to program on the PS3. They had to get Sony developers to come in to help them getting Skyrim working properly.
That's I heard like they were holding off on DLC for the PS3 for
Yeah,
Skyrim
yeah,
because they couldn't get it working.
yeah.
Yeah.
They finally got Skyrim working well on the PS3. So if you want to play Skyrim on the PS3, that's fine. But if you want to play Oblivion, Fallout 3, or Fallout New Vegas, you're shit out of luck unless you got another system.
I was first introduced to Bethesda games through Fallout 3, and it ran fine until my disc became scratched. And I accidentally kicked the 360, and I caught my foot on the memory unit, and it caused it to jump up, and when I took the disc out, there was this big crescent-shaped scratch into it. And it still sort of works, but every time you talk to the merchant outside of Megaton, as soon as he closes out his conversation, the game will crash. Just a straight up disk read error. And that seems to be the only thing that causes it to crash now.
For me, when I did play the game on the Xbox 360, so I have played all the way through Fallout 3, and I don't have a 360 anymore. That's why I wanted it on PC. But the only area in the game where I actually had severe issues was the pit DLC. The pit DLC froze the game like a motherfucker. I don't know what was with that specific DLC, but that DLC hated the game.
Wasn't it too, and I'm remembering this from various news reports now, wasn't that DLC like unfinished when it was released? Like you could go through and see like red transparent exclamation points all over the place, and even if you like zoomed in your gun, boom, that was there?
I think I heard about that. Like the pit was like it's weird because a lot of these games do have really kind of unfinished textures where it's kind of like you can like clip through walls and stuff where you shouldn't be able to, and it seems to happen often in DLC, which is strange.
Because they really shouldn't be trying to rush to a deadline with DLC like they would be with getting the actual retail game out.
Yeah, which is weird because you think they'd use as much time as they needed for the DLC, but often people are clamoring for it on the first day for some reason. Well, a lot of people do complain. Didn't they test this fucking game? It's like, yes, these games are tested to death. These games are tested very hard, and I know I worked on one professionally for a while, and we pulled a lot of times. I don't remember any specific like really funny bugs. Although when you are playing the games when they're unfinished, oftentimes they'll have like the developer voice instead of voiceovers from the actors. So you get this like really deadpan reading of the line, and it just becomes really funny. And when we were reaching gold, we had to make sure all of the placeholder audio and visuals are out of the game because we can't have those going through in the final version. Because it is something like as a developer, I've worked as a developer and as a game tester. You start to accept your placeholders in the games, and you just kind of overlook them. You don't notice that they're still in there when you're like, oh shit, this really should not be in the final version.
That's not good.
No. I remember one of them it wasn't really a bug, but it was on like a Pirates of the Caribbean game, and as you were fighting the enemies, they would drop meat, and you would use that to restore your health. And one of them suggested, well, if you're finding meat after beating up people, it kind of feels like you're eating them. So shouldn't they drop like bread or fish or something?
Or already prepared meat that they had on their person instead of raw meat.
Well, I don't think it was raw meat. It was kind of like a bone or something, or like a bone of meat or something, or like one of those hawk things. But still, it's still kind of that's a bit weird. I remember the game I was working on. It originally came up on the Wii menu because it would show the name of the game. It would say the Spiderwick Chronic, and it's like that shouldn't be that. Then they eventually changed it to the Spiderwick Cron.
But I got to ask you, what's worse, eating meat dropped by a human opponent that you feel awkward about, or eating meat that you found in a wall?
Well, if you get it off of a human opponent, it's probably fresher. Probably tastes like pork. Well, one series that's other than Bethesda, one series that's always been really kind of notorious for kind of funny bugs is the Final Fantasy series. Even going back to the first one, they've had some really critical bugs in these games. I remember the first game had a really bad one where the critical hit ratio of your weapons was unrelated to what it should be. Like, specific weapons should have a higher crit ratio than others, like the axes should have a higher crit rate than swords, even though they have a lower base damage. It doesn't end up working that way. In the original Final Fantasy, all of the weapons, their crit rate is based on their index number on the list. So, you know how programming works. You have index numbers for all these weapons, so it's like 0 through 39, I think. So instead of using the actual crit rate, it uses their number on the list. So as you encounter weapons near the end of the game, they get these absurd crit rates of like 39% when they should be like 5.
You know, and Final Fantasy in particular, you could find out of any game you could take a Game Genie to, those you could always find the weirdest shit in the code that shouldn't really be there. Like, I remember in Final Fantasy VII, you could there was a Game Shark code that you could use to have Sephiroth in your party.
Yeah, well, if you could Game Shark to get Eris back, of course you get back Sephiroth.
Yeah, but you got an interesting realization when you did that. Is Sephiroth used the same game data as Vincent. So if you're actually past the point where you already have Vincent, the game freaks out if you try to use Sephiroth.
Yeah, I can see that happening because they had to have space in your party for nine party members, and it's impossible to have Vincent before that point. Heck, it's impossible to have Yuffie as well, but I guess they felt the data would just better fit with Vincent or something. Although it's weird because, Vincent wasn't in the Japanese version. Vincent and Yuffie were only in the American versions.
No, they were in the Japanese version. It's Ruby and Emerald weapon weren't in the Japanese version.
Are you sure? Because they don't appear in any of the cutscenes.
They don't really appear in much of anything in the American version either.
I thought they were, because I know they're optional, but
they don't appear in any of the pre-rendered stuff specifically because they knew you might not have them in your party.
Right. Okay, so I guess that makes sense. I just thought I read somewhere that they were only in the American version, because I know the weapons were, the Emerald and Ruby weapons were, but I thought those two were as well, so that was strange. But there was another really kind of funny bug with the first Final Fantasy, in the sense that it's now kind of taken for granted that if you use an elemental based weapon on an enemy that's weak to that element, it'll deal additional damage. The first game never had that, but it was supposed to. All the data was in it. It's like every enemy had, this enemy is weak to this element, and every weapon had, this weapon has this elemental property. But there was never a line of code in there when doing damage calculations to check for those two values.
I guess that's what happens when your game is your last resort before your company goes out of business.
Yeah.
Because that's why it was called Final Fantasy. It's like, if this game doesn't succeed, we're dead. And
if you played the games that came before it, you can kind of see why they were struggling. They're not that great.
Knight's Knight.
Yeah,
Rad
King's
Racer.
Knight was just kind of...
Rad Racer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made Rad Racer. That's surprising.
Yeah. Now, I don't have a whole lot of experience with glitches in Final Fantasy, but I do have a couple for Dragon Warrior. I think I have them archived on my stream. One of them was the treasure chest in the opening castle. Sometimes you could go in and search. You would get like an arbitrary amount of gold, like 10 pieces or 12 pieces here. But for some reason, out of another, the treasure chest wouldn't disappear. Or even if they disappeared, you could still search that area and still keep getting gold. So if you wanted to spend a little extra time and farm some gold instead of killing a bunch of monsters and farming it that way, you could do that.
But you only get like 10 or 12 at a time?
Yeah, but
so I guess it would work well in the early game, but not near the end. That would not be worth it. Just go out, kill a gold man.
Yeah, but it's like if you don't want to kill the gold man or look for the gold man, you can just do all that. Another glitch that happened was I was fighting a ghost. I think it was either a ghost or Drake, and I hit a critical, but it missed. So like it made the sound for it said you hit a critical hit, miss, no damage was sent. I was like, what? How do I crit and I miss at the same time?
Well, I think the ghost has a slightly higher defense than other enemies, so you might have just kind of hit a fluke there, where you managed to crit but also miss at the same time.
It's like you rolled a critical hit, but the ghost evade kept it from being hit, so you critical hit the air.
Yeah. You rolled a 20, but you did it really
hard. Oh, gee, that hurt. The air.
Yeah, you rolled a 20, but you didn't really roll a 20.
You rolled a 20 on your attack, but you rolled a 1 on your damage.
It's like your 5-year-old brother comes in and rolls the dice for you. Then he hits 20. It's like, yeah, you technically didn't do that.
Yeah, but that was your brother. That wasn't you. So.
Yeah.
No, you can't hit me. I'm wearing wizard armor.
You get a critical, but you don't really get a critical.
Actually, an interesting bug that actually ruined a game for one of my friends. He bought 2 worlds. The first one, not the second one.
Thing.
He got quite a ways into the game, but he hadn't saved. And he got to a point where he was on a horse and he tried to jump through something that was too narrow, and he got stuck and couldn't get loose.
Ugh.
Oh, those are the worst.
Yeah, I've run into that in the Fallout games as well. It's like, if it weren't for like fast travel, oh fuck. Or you try to fast travel and there's an enemy near you, and it won't come nearby so you can kill it.
Yeah, you can't figure out where the fuck it's at. So you can't fast travel. It's like, oh god, just let me go.
And that's one thing that I actually will use console commands. I don't use console commands to cheat. I use console commands if the game cheats me out of something because it's poorly programmed. It's like, if my weapon ends up falling through the floor, I'll TCL and go get it. I'll click to the floor and go get it.
I just had it. You gave me a horrible nightmare from EverQuest talking about something going through the floor.
Oh dear.
MMOs are very open world, like they used to be anyhow. Kind of like how Fallout and
yeah, a lot of those games, when they are very open world, it is very easy to have problems, like just geometry errors, because there are hundreds of square miles in these games and only a limited number of testers.
I guarantee you some of these stories will be weirder than anything you've had happen in Fallout. There was one point, I can't remember which game this was, but there was one point where I was just walking, and all of a sudden I fell through the world. I literally fell into the ground, and I just kept falling for a long time until finally the game realized something was wrong, and it teleported me insanely high up into the sky. So
you might have overflowed.
So then I fell, hit the ground,
and took much damage.
I took max damage, which is something that normally cannot happen in the game. There's not any attack in the game that actually does that amount of damage, but I took it because I fell.
I'd imagine if you keep falling far enough, eventually the variable will overflow and you'll end up put super high in the sky, which is probably what happened.
Yeah, I
just fell down so far.
I probably fell outside of the game's code, so it threw me back into the sky. But the worst one is in EverQuest, when you die, your equipment is left on your corpse, and you have to go retrieve it.
Where was your corpse left?
There was a horrible problem with disconnecting, where if you disconnected while you're on a boat,
you would reconnect where you would have been standing in the ocean.
Well, the thing is, when you disconnect, your character doesn't automatically disappear out of the online world. So what happens is the boat hit the point where it was supposed to load into another zone, but because you're not there, your character doesn't. So the boat keeps going, your body falls in, you come back on and you're dead at the bottom of the sea. There's no way you're getting your equipment back.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd imagine the EverQuest had the problems that World of Warcraft managed to work out.
So in EverQuest, if you die, you lose all of your equipment. Like, it just falls off and you gotta run back and grab it?
Can other people loot your corpse if they get to it?
No, they can't.
Oh, thank goodness.
Other people are not, the only way other people can loot your corpse is if you give them permission. And even then, you can also give them permission to drag your corpse in case you need somebody to bring it back from an area where you can't possibly get to it without getting yourself killed.
Right.
Because you have to retrieve your gear if you die. There's that on top of, losing experience for dying. Death penalties were very severe in the early days of MMOs.
Yeah, and they don't take into any account that you might lag out, you might disconnect. That's not something that you have to account for this kind of stuff. You can't just leave it up to, oh, well, you disconnected, you lose everything you ever worked for.
And it's like, oh, well, you disconnected, you're probably a cheater, so fuck you. But they've kind of fixed that in more recent games. Like, normally if you disconnect, the enemies won't keep attacking you because the game realizes you're not there to defend yourself.
Yeah. I've run into similar problems when I was playing on a free WoW server. Like, normally it'd just be playing fine, but occasionally you would run into an enemy that has, 32 of him stacked in the exact same location. So you aggro one of them, and you aggro all of them, and they just go over and just annihilate you.
I've also seen some rather funny graphical glitches in Old Republic recently. There was recently a glitch with the...
Recently? Really?
Yeah, they've had update patches cause glitches that weren't there before, which actually that happens very often with MMOs.
Yeah, they fix one problem, and they end up with another.
There was a race of aliens, the Togruta, which is the same race that Ahsoka from Clone Wars is, where some of the character models, their face basically looked like it had the Matrix code on it.
Oh, jeez.
And there was also another one that happened recently where, I can't remember what alien race it was, but everything except for their eyes and teeth are suddenly invisible. Ew. So you see their armor and everything, but where their head's supposed to be, there's just floating eyes and teeth.
That's kind of creepy.
Yes, it is.
Have you ever run into a glitch in these games that it pissed you off so much that you just stopped playing?
No, I can't really think of one.
I can't think of one offhand. Usually when I get pissed at a game and stop playing, it's because the game has just pissed me off on its own. But there are some that have been horribly frustrating because I'm trying to think. I know there have been some where I gave up on getting achievements in them because it wasn't doing what it was supposed to. In fact, actually, I can think of one off the top of my head. Dragon Age Origins, the Darkspawn Chronicles DLC, where you have to actually play as the Darkspawn in the final battle. There's an achievement for getting an ogre companion all the way through the whole thing without them dying. I did that, and the game didn't give me the fucking achievement.
Bastards.
I'm like, I'm not doing that over again. Fuck you.
I had one. I had one, and I actually did repeat it to get the achievement. I don't know the name of the achievement offhand, but it was in the original Assassin's Creed. You had to kill all 50 Templars in all three regions, including the giant overworld that connects them all. Now, the thing is, you actually have to physically kill them, either by hidden blade or with your sword or any other weapon. If you find a Templar on top of a building and you try fighting them and they just, fall off because we're kind of in a stance and they back off and they just fall to their death, that doesn't count because you didn't kill them. The fall did. So the fall gets the achievement and you don't.
Oh, I can think of there've been achievements in other games that have annoyed me where you'd be fighting something and you'd have allies there helping you, and if the ally steals your kill, it doesn't count for you towards the achievement, so it'll screw you up. So you have to do another playthrough of the game. And I'm just like, no.
That always kind of bugged me in Fallout. It's like you gain a companion, but you have to make sure you deal at least 51% of the damage to enemies, otherwise you don't get any experience. Thankfully, they fixed that in New Vegas.
Yeah, and I know some games where you do have to get the kills, but then you have AI partners, and they don't kill anything because they're too freaking weak. I mean, I have it in Mass Effect where I can just get ally powers to put things in stasis so I can kill them. Thankfully, they're not smart enough to kill things on their own.
Well, the thing that I ran into most recently, I probably would have stopped playing Fallout 3 because of the scratch disc, but I had already beaten it like twice at that point, so I just kind of gave up because it just sucked not being able to talk to that merchant because it's like one of the most convenient ones there. I recently did stop playing XCOM, the new one, because it just kept crashing the desktop. Every time I tried to take a specific action, it would just crash. And there's nothing more frustrating in a game than to keep doing something and not make any progress. I've quit so many games because I'm trying to get like a perfect playthrough. So every time I screw up, I reload and I have to keep replaying the like last 5-10 minutes. But it adds up. It adds up every time, and it's like another 10 minutes where I haven't accomplished anything. And it's even worse when it's through nothing you did. It's like you couldn't have done it any better this time. It's just the game randomly decided to crash.
Yeah, I had that experience actually with Halo 3 ODST, where it would kill your Xbox right before you booted up like a save file. I don't remember if it was either the beginning of the game or I had gotten some point in the game, but as soon as I tried to load up the map, it would just die. Like, it would kick you back to the dashboard or it would just shut off your Xbox completely. And apparently there was nothing I can do about it, and it actually did kill one of my Xboxes. Like, the disk drive, it just fucked it up completely, so I had to go buy a new one.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But, because we were speaking about teammates a minute ago, that actually made me think of something. What about buggy AI?
Oh, gee. Buggy AI, I actually kind of like it if it's exploitable. That was one thing that really kind of helped me get through Oblivion, just the fact that you could stand on a rock and they can't reach you.
Well, or a good
or
one.
You stand on a pillar in the arena.
I'm sure everybody remembers the famous Aliens Colonial Marines clip with the bugged alien, where it looks like he's dancing and he's going, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Hello, my ragdoll girl."
But it's really bad when you have AI teammates and they're buggy as hell. Like in Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, your AI was so dumb as dirt. There'd be times where there's not enemies around and they just suddenly start shooting a car, and you're just like, "What are you doing? There's nothing there.
Why are you wasting that ammo?"
I had one in, I don't know if you guys ever played Star Wars Republic Commando, the FPS where you were just like specifically created clones, and it was actually pretty neat up until a point where I reached a bug that just stopped me from playing completely. You had to issue out certain commands because your clone teammates did certain things. Like, one was a demolition expert, one was a tech guy, but at certain points you had to get your whole team together to open up a door to progress to the next level. I had two of my teammates ready to go, and they were up their positions, ready to open the door, and I'm like, "Where's the third one?" I had to trek back all the way to the beginning of the last checkpoint, which was like a 2-minute trek back, and he is like 50 feet up in the air on a mountain, running in place, like trying to get somewhere else. I hit every single button configuration I can to like try and get him to like, "Get down here, move this way, move that way." Wouldn't work. Even I tried reloading the save or last checkpoint, he's still on that mountain. So I was just like, done.
That's
I
like
never played it again.
Just stuff like that. That's the one case where I would use console commands to fix things. Because I would never use them to cheat, but when something like that happens and screws you out of something that should not be a problem, yeah, you gotta get in there and fix the code yourself.
I think it was actually funny is I actually remember seeing Angry Joe's review of Star Trek. There was a point where he was showing co-op gameplay footage, and when you have co-op, the NPC ally is still there, and it was following his teammate. His teammate got taken down to where the other player needed to help him up, but the NPC was blocking the path, so he couldn't get to him.
It's not artificial intelligence at that point, it's artificial stupidity. I mean, at a certain point, you really have to look at these games, and the developers just have to take a step back and say, is this really what we intended? Honestly, some of the AI in these games are ridiculous.
It's actually funny is, at least with games nowadays, they can patch issues. Like, people want to keep saying, well, they released the game unfinished because they know they can patch it, and that's why there's more bugs. And it's like, no, there were a lot of bugs in old games too. We just couldn't get rid of the bugs because there was no way to patch it.
Yeah, the Infinite Lives glitch in the first Super Mario Brothers, the creator actually apologized for that. He apologized that that made it into the game. He felt that broke it. And now it's become one of the most iconic classic glitches. One of the iconic classic bugs from the NES era. Just jumping on that turtle shell and getting 1,000,000 lives.
But one I'm sure Johnny knows is with how long the wrestling video games have been going, we've had an interesting history of game glitches in those.
Yeah. You were mentioning one before the podcast about Legends of Wrestling Showdown, one of the last games Acclaim ever produced before they went bankrupt.
It wasn't one of the last, it was the last.
It was the last?
Yes.
Okay. I can't remember what it was before. I was pretty sure there was a commentating glitch, but I think now when I think about that, I'm thinking it might have been one of the WWE SmackDown games where they just called them by the wrong wrestler. I think Michael Cole was calling The Rock Chavo Guerrero.
Yeah, I know none of these words, so I'm just listening to you guys.
Yeah. Michael Cole's commentary has a history of being glitched. I'm wondering if that was intentional to make fun of the fact that he used to be really stupid when it came to commentating, or if it really was a glitch. Because I mean, there were a couple of SmackDowns in a row where he'd call every single move a Lita Kinrana. You'd hit a pedigree and he'd be like, "What a great Lita Kinrana."
Lita Kinrana. Again,
it sounds almost like some of those announcers from other sports. It's like, I think, in my opinion, as good as they've been in the first half of the game, that's as bad as they've been now.
No, that was actually which one was it? Just Bring It, the first one on PS2. Taz. If there was a wrestler that was a champion, his audio would just be so off. It would just be like, "The Rock is the best Intercontinental Champion we've ever had."
That's more of a problem with just parsing together voice acting.
Yeah,
because they have them read the stuff out and it doesn't sound like actual speech at all. Because they have to try to find all these ways of piecing together these different words. And that's really it's not really a problem on the part of it's not really a bug with the game. It's just they didn't do enough readings. They didn't do enough line readings of those.
But yeah, as we were saying before we started talking about this stuff, Legends of Wrestling Showdown had a lot of really horrible game-breaking bugs. I'm trying to remember all of them I read about. I know there was one where people said they'd be playing a battle royal, which is like if you don't know TZ, it's where you have like a ton of people in this match that come down and enter as it goes, and they gotta eliminate the others by throwing them out of the ring. There was a glitch people encountered where their character would just suddenly fall through the ring and be declared eliminated.
You've been out of the ring for 5 seconds. You're gone.
Well, I mean, like they just literally fell through the mat, and like their character was gone, and it's like eliminated. Like, what?
Was it near the mat, or was it like near one of the corners, or trying to climb back in, or just?
They actually had this happen while they were in the center of the ring. They just literally just fell through the ring and lost.
Yeah, you wouldn't think stopping them right in the middle of the ring would be all that hard to do. It's just make a plane.
I read there was another glitch where someone Irish whipped the Ultimate Warrior, and when he got to the ring ropes where he should have hit the ropes and bounced back, he kept running as though there was nothing in the way, like he was still in the ring.
So he just ran right through the ropes and into the crowd?
He just ran through the ropes, ran through the audience, off the screen, never came back.
I want to see video of this now.
He must have been headed back to the Torina Testament.
He must have decided they weren't paying him enough for his match, so he left.
His discurcity came through.
So the person actually, they couldn't end the match. And this was back in the day when, because this was PS2, there were a lot of games that didn't give you the option of pausing and picking to go back to the menu, so they had to...
Yeah, I've run into that on old school games, too. It's like the Super Mario Brothers 2. I've been trapped underneath walls, In Super Mario Bros. 2, you have no timer. So if you don't die, you never run out of time. So you just have to restart the freaking game.
Yeah, they had to reset the game. Another one I remember hearing about was something would glitch sometimes when somebody goes to do a submission hold on another wrestler. They wouldn't actually get a hold of them, so they'd start doing the submission hold on the air when there's nothing there.
And would that end up hurting him?
No, the problem is because they're not actually in a hold to break out of it, the submission hold never ends, and you can't stop the animation to finish the match. So it's another situation where you have to reset the game because the code is shit.
Yeah, in developers' terms, that's a level 1 bug. That's an A priority, because that's a non-progression, as they call. Those are the top priority bugs they have to fix.
That actually happened to me. I was doing a live stream of WWE 13. I'm playing through Attitude Era mode, and I'm playing. I'm pretty sure it was the WrestleMania 14 match between Undertaker and Kane, and Undertaker puts me. No. It was something else. Anyway, it was Undertaker versus Kane. Undertaker puts me in a grapple, and for some reason the AI didn't realize it was in a grapple, so he didn't initiate another move. And it was at a point in the animation where I cannot counter. I'm pulling the right trigger to counter, and nothing's happening. So we're just sitting there for what seems like forever, nothing happening. I can't do nothing but reset the game or reset the whole system and start over.
Yeah, but on the bright side, at least you were in a grapple. At least he didn't have the ankle locked onto the air. I mean, it's a game-breaking bug, but at least it didn't look completely moronic, I guess.
That is true. I actually wanted to go back real quick, talk about what was it called again? We were talking about overflow.
Overflow, yeah.
Glitch.
Variable overflow.
I think my favorite is that one that you can actually trigger on command, and that's in GTA 4, the swing set. There's a particular park that you can go to in Grand Theft Auto 4.
The infamous swing set of death.
Yeah, people loved it so much because of what it did. And it's not integral to any part of the story or mission or anything. It's just there. It's just a swing set they just put in there. And God, the amount of fun that you can have just grabbing different vehicles and then putting them in. I was part of an Xbox Live party, and a guy did this on a stream. We were just testing out different vehicles that you could put in there. If you go in there on, like, say, like a motorbike or a 2 or 4 door car, it's fun. It'll send you flying up. We discovered, though, that if you put in, let's say, a flatbed truck or the coach, the giant bus, that doesn't send you up. That sends you down into the world, into nothingness, and you just spin infinitely. And he realized, though, that your vehicle spins infinitely, but you can escape that. If you hit Y and get out of the bus, you'll just pop back up in the middle of the world.
And yeah, a lot of these times, the glitches add so much charm to these games. Is that, yeah, you have fun because you're exploiting the stupid AI. You have fun because these things are just, they have this insane physics engine that gives you massive amounts of boost when it shouldn't. And it becomes a reason to keep playing these games, just to try to exploit the engine. Sometimes it's a matter of pride to actually be able to crash the game. Because, I mean, I think one time I actually managed to crit somebody in a game so hard that it ended up crashing the game. I don't remember what game it was, though.
Well, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if you were supposed to be able to do this, but I remember in Saints Row 2, one of my friends just suddenly gained an addiction to driving cars headfirst into gas pumps at gas stations in that game. And when the gas pump explodes, it launches your car so insanely high into the air that you could probably hit a passing airplane if there was one. In fact, he did that. He actually, one time, I was in the passenger seat. He drove us into the thing, but he jumped out of the car at the last second. So I was the only one still left in the car. The car goes flying through the air.
Did you say, I can see my house?
It's like, I would have survived because you don't really take damage when you're in the car. But the car landed in a river.
Oh, and you drowned.
So I drowned.
Actually, that's a funny exploit you can do in Saints Row the Third. If you finish the SAG missions, which I lovingly call those guys the G.I. Joe group because all their technology is basically based off of G.I. Joe. But if you get the upgrade for the remote satchel charges, what you can do is you can take the Emu car, which is like the smart car in the game. You can get that up to the top of one of your penthouses. If you drive that off and you playing co-op, if you got a guy on your other side, he can throw satchel charges and just make that thing launch. So it's like, instead of just going straight off the building, you can just fly to like the other part of the island.
So have you ever used a bug or an exploit to get through a game that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to, just because the part is like too hard? You actually have to exploit a bug to get through it?
You know, I'm sure that I know that I have. I just can't think of particular games off the top of my head. But I know there've been a couple games where an enemy was so ridiculously hard that when I accidentally found a way where I could just pelt them with attacks nonstop and they wouldn't do anything. I just did that to get the fight over with because I knew I couldn't win.
Yes, but are those considered bugs or glitches, or are those just considered exploits, or are they just being an unorthodox method of winning?
In fact, the funny thing is, you could argue about that. But the funny thing is, the first time I beat Dreadmore in Dungeons of Dreadmore, I somehow got him stun locked. I don't remember what I did, but he got stunned and couldn't get out of it. So he literally just stood there and died. But after I won, the game crashed on me.
Oh, did you at least get the credit winning?
No. It was like the game punished me for cheating.
I only have two instances of that. One, I don't need to do that, but I just find that
because you're just
if I get
so
to
badass at every video
it's just
game.
there. No, it's not. It's not that for this particular. It's Super Mario Brothers 3. There's at the final castle, like if you don't feel like going through all the labyrinths and the tunnels and all that, there's certain statues that you can fly into. Yeah, the jump crouch and like phase through the wall into Bowser, so just to save yourself some time. Like I've done that. The only other one that I can think of was the final boss fight in Halo 2 when you're fighting that white monkey dude. I'm sorry, I only played Halo 2 once. Sorry, Halo fans, if you're listening, but I only played it once. I don't know. So. Yeah, I've only played Halo 2 to completion once, and I didn't do a goddamn thing to the final boss. I think Sergeant Johnson peppered him with Covenant sniper shots, and then he just keeled over and died. At that point, you're the Arbiter, and I think you have an energy sword. I was trying to hit him with the energy sword, nothing happened, so I just backed up, and then Sergeant Johnson started hitting him. I don't know if that's what you're supposed to do, but I just thought I was like, okay, I just beat the game, and I didn't do a goddamn thing.
The first time I played Half-Life 2, I was in Nova Prospect. I was in the segments where you have to set up the turrets to help defend yourself against the soldiers, and I tried for 2 hours. I tried 8 freaking times to get through this, and every goddamn time they would run up, they'd kick over the fucking turrets because those turrets are top heavy as hell, and they never fucking stay up. So eventually I managed to find an exploit where I just piled up boxes against the wall and climbed onto the upper balcony where the soldiers can't find you, and I just picked them off from there with my guns. And the funny thing was, I was standing up there, and Alex came running in. And she's like, Gordon! And she's looking down the balcony, and I'm go up standing right next to her. I was like, what? What do you want? And she turns facing towards me, and she's like, Gordon! Like, oh, she probably wants to talk to me down there. So I had to go back down there to trigger the next cutscene.
Have either of you guys ever done something in a game too fast where it caused the game to freeze? I've had issues in certain games that decided to have particularly fancy menus.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Stuff like that, where they have menus where you have to scroll around really quickly and you have to watch a tiny cutscene every time where it whooshes over.
Or where you scroll through the menu and the background changes and you get so you have everything memorized to the point where you can kind of flash through it, but the game isn't ready for you to go through it that fast, so you lock the game up.
Right. There actually is an exploit in the first, well, not the first, but then Super Smash Bros. Melee, where if you manage to manipulate the character select menu in such a way where you go into the game without having chosen a control scheme, or a character, it sets you as Master Hand, and you can actually play as Master Hand.
Yeah,
And that wasn't discovered until like a couple years ago, and that kind of fits along those lines of where you just manipulate the menu so fast that it actually you do things that the game doesn't intend.
The worst one I had happen though was with Star Ocean 1, or not Star Ocean 1. That wasn't released over here. Star Ocean 2. I was level grinding, and I had memorized. I knew what button I had to hit to go to the menu. So like one fight where I leveled up. Like, I tried to go to the menu too quickly, as like I had hit the menu button as it was just coming back out of the fight. I black screened the game.
Oh, and when was the last time you saved?
It had been like an hour or so, because I was just level grinding. I was like, that's not good.
That's not fun. That's never fun.
That's not fluffy.
That actually has happened to me. I'm currently playing through Saints Row 4 right now. That's actually happened to me right now. We're going through the menus real fast. I'm pretty sure this is what does it. I don't know. It's random when it happens, but going through the menus real fast in Saints Row 4, when I'm in a store, after I purchase something, the camera will stay fixated on the door, and it will just follow my character, like, just kind of pan around. It's kind of like if you've played... Did any of you guys play Shadows of the Empire on Nintendo 64?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to think of another example of like a camera angle where... Well, maybe like in open world games, you have a cinematic
where you talk
camera.
to somebody and the camera kind of moves around to face at them.
Well, not really. It's more like in open world games, sandbox games. Sometimes they'll have the cinematic camera. So like if you like hold like the B button or you actually choose a cinematic camera, there's times where it just stays in place and it'll just like kind of pan around. I'm doing the hand motions with my hands right now and no one can see. This is an audio podcast. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's just like, like it's like a fix. Like,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what would happen after I would buy something in the store in Saints Row 4, and there's no way to fix that other than save your game, exit out, reload it. Another instance is there are some mini games that you play to boost your superpowers, and after you finish them, there's supposed to be like a purple menu to tell you your cash, your experience, and if you collected anything new, like a gateway or a homie or something. What happens is like there's supposed to be a model of your character doing actions to show that you got like the gold medal in this, and then it kicks you back into the world. If for some reason the menu goes too fast, your character is like a minuscule, like a dot on the screen. And then after that whole sequence goes through, the camera is pulled all the way back to like the edge of the world. So you can only see buildings. And apparently you can still move your character around. It's just that you have no idea where the fuck you are because the camera's pulled back so far.
Yeah, I've run into stuff similar to that. It's like whenever you kind of like scroll through a thing and it has to load a new stance or like a new character, and you sometimes worry, like if you scroll too fast, the game won't be able to keep up, and it'll just kind of crash.
Well, yeah, that's a huge problem with a lot of games that have complicated character creation, like in wrestling games, where the game doesn't just preview the costume for you if you select it. No, it previews every single piece of clothing you go buy on the menu, and I freaking hate that.
Yeah, and you have to scroll down, load, down, load. It also makes
it take longer. It makes it take longer for you to get through the menus because you have to wait for shit to load. It's like, God damn it. Surprised Johnny has nothing to say about that, considering how many wrestling games he's played.
I totally feel how you feel about that. It's like you every time you select clothing, it just you sit there and wait for the texture to load, and it just slows down everything.
Since we're kind of reaching the end of what we have to talk about, what have you been playing right now? Well, we know what you've been playing, Johnny. What have you been playing right now that hopefully doesn't have quite as many glitches in it? Ozzy, how about you?
Well, actually, I just recently was playing Dragon's Crown, but I had to take a break from that because it got kind of frustrating because it's one of those RPG games where they make shit scale to your level, so it gets kind of annoying that you can never really just go do something that's easy from having leveled up. No, they're going to be stronger because you are now.
Oh, it's an RPG game. Did you buy that with money from your ATM machine?
What?
Never mind.
Aside from that, I actually started playing Disney Infinity because they had a ton of the shit on sale at Toys R Us. Where they were doing.
I heard you tweeting about that. You're saying you're liking it more than Skylanders.
Yeah, because for one thing, the control scheme is far better. Skylanders is kind of weird because Skylanders looked like it would be more of a 3D platformer type game, like based off the way the characters look, because they all look so cartoony. But it's more along the lines of Diablo, where no one can jump.
Oh, jeez.
And it feels weird because everything about the game, the way you move around certain areas, feels like you should be able to jump, but you can't.
Yeah. Infinity looks really fun. I'm just kind of worried about it's a hefty investment because it's $75 for the game, that transfer pad, and 3 figures where you get Jack Sparrow, you get Sully, and you get Mr. Incredible, and then the figures
it's such a
separately.
Random choice of characters.
Yeah, because I think those are the only 3 worlds currently in there, right? Is Pirates of the Caribbean, Monsters University, and
those are the ones that are included.
And none
with
of
the
them
pack.
are like first-party Disney movies, really. Well, Pirates of the Caribbean, yeah, but it's not really what people think of when they think of Disney.
Yeah, because everything else is Pixar.
Yeah,
including there's Cars figures that you can get, and that's Pixar too.
Well, actually, Lone Ranger is concluded right now, but
right.
that movie didn't exactly do well.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're making a world for that.
But actually, the funny thing is, speaking of Disney Infinity, that actually kind of goes with the topic for today.
You've encountered glitches already.
No, I haven't, but this was before I bought it. When the game came, because this is the PS3 version, which is the one I have, so that it made me glad I didn't get it on release day. When the game came out, for on launch day, it was unplayable.
Oh dear.
There was a day one update patch that if you downloaded it, it would make it so that you couldn't get past the start screen.
Ouch.
It would completely lock out the PS3. Like you had to switch it off in the back in order to turn it off.
I think you had to do a hard power off where you hold the button down. But the other thing is if you deleted the patch and played in offline mode, you couldn't save because your data would be corrupted when you came back to play it next time. So it was unplayable on day one. And the funny thing is, some idiot from Disney actually said it wasn't a software issue. It's like, what do you mean it's not a software issue? There can't be any other issue. It was a problem that you tried to fix with the patch. The patch caused another problem. That's the software. You don't know what software is.
So you're saying the problem is with the toys. Yeah. And the problem with that is like this thing is intended for a younger audience, and that's going to be just they won't have any idea what's happening, and probably their parents probably won't either. It's like, did you break your game already? What did you do? I just put it in. It's like, no, you were screwing around with something.
Yeah, there was some rage from parents online over it. Luckily, they got it fixed relatively quickly. But the thing is, that's something you really can't have happen on a release day.
Yeah, that's going to be really troublesome.
Especially with something like this, where it's more than regular retail price of games. Like it's an extra $25.
Yeah,
after taxes and all that. Yeah,
15 to 25.
Yeah. And plus, more than likely your kids would have convinced you to buy figures aside from the starter ones.
Yeah, so and those are pretty expensive.
That's a C note down the tubes. Have there been problems like you install the game and it's completely bricked, or is it fixed if you just download the update?
Oh, the most recent update has it completely working properly.
Yeah.
But what about people that were affected by it? How hard is it for them to fix what happened to them?
You mean people that got their save corrupted?
Yeah.
Well, they're really fine as long as they just make another save and play. It didn't ruin the game.
It's only been one day, so they can't have gotten that far in the game, I guess.
Yeah, it was like a day or two, but either way, it's just, you're just gonna have to start over again, and that's not a horribly big deal when the game just came out.
But if this came down like a year down the line,
it's not like what Capcom had happen with Dragon's Dogma, where the game the standalone the expansion version came out, and they had an update patch that corrupted saves on both that and the original version of Dragon's Dogma, which had been out for more than half a year at the time.
Well, I was gonna say, at least it's not a PS3 firmware update that actually bricks your entire console.
Yeah, that's definitely good. But as I was saying though, because obviously a lot of people probably aren't going to be happy with the starting figures, so more than likely kids got their parents to buy them something extra. Me personally, I'm using Davy Jones right now.
Johnny, other than Saints Row 4, what have you been playing?
Well, just been when I take a break from Saints Row 4, I've got DuckTales Remastered on the PS3. I've been enjoying that a lot. I'm just really like take it back, like it's nostalgia. Like you put on nostalgia glasses, and I like it. It's a lot of fun. I do find though it's like they have taken a lot of some of the challenge out because like there is a map to show you where to go to get the treasures and all that, and the key things you need to get to the boss room. But I'm actually working towards now getting as much money as possible because you can buy the extra stuff like you can buy stills from the actual animated series, character portraits which show the 8-bit sprites from the NES game as well as like what they drew for this one. But I'm working towards getting actually the original 8-bit soundtrack to play through it.
Nice. The Moon theme is great.
Yeah.
How is the new Moon theme? Has that been updated as well?
Oh yeah, they've all been updated. They still sound really good. I mean, they didn't really do too much that's different. I will say though that I agree with a couple other people that I have on Twitter is that the Moon theme has been integrated into several other themes, like very briefly. Like you can hear a little bit of the Moon theme when you're playing, like when you're at the computer to pick your next world. You could hear a little bit there. It's in the closing, which Brettel Floss would love because he said that should have been the ending credits theme. But yeah, I think they just played off that song a little bit too much. I mean, but it's still fun. It's still a fun game. Definitely worth the money.
Actually, a funny thing about mentioning DuckTales, Scrooge's Money Bin is in Disney Infinity.
I did see that with a review, and I'm like, yeah. Actually, the one thing that has gotten my girlfriend's interest into it is some of the Tron set pieces that are in it. She's a really big fan of Tron.
The set pieces that have stuck out to me the most was I heard about, actually I haven't seen the Money Bin, but one thing I have seen is even in the building tutorial is the entrance to the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin.
Oh,
that's the point where I stopped playing Kingdom Hearts.
And the funny thing is, you can. There's all kinds of things you can put in the playsets as enemies. Like you can get the guards from Aladdin as enemies to fight in the toy box.
I would do that. I would kick Jim Cummings' ass. Let's do it.
Yeah, right now, like what I plan on doing when I mess with the toy boxes, I'm probably going to try to make like the ultimate villain hideout.
Of course,
Disney Infinity Tower Defense game.
Or it's just an adventure module for others to play through.
I don't like tower defense games. They seem to go back to that old school design of games where it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to lose eventually. And I just don't like those kind of bleak games where like, yeah, you can get further, but you're always going to lose because the game is infinite. It's like, why bother playing a game you can't win? I mean, I like games where you have to go for a high score, and if you die, it's your own fault, but not games that are just designed to eventually kill you.
Like Duck Hunt.
Yeah, Duck Hunt.
Yeah, if we're ending it here, we can end on one more glitch here, I guess. There's actually, don't know if you really consider it a glitch. I just saw it on YouTube. It's kind of like, it's a kill screen, where if you get past 99 rounds...
99, I thought it was like 228 or 100 or 255.
No, it's
it
99
would be 99
because like,
it's the two numbers, yeah.
Yeah, because if you roll over to what would be round 100, it just says round 0, and that will just have the dog keep coming up and laughing at you because you're not able to shoot any of the ducks.
And the ducks are just kind of flying around like crazy, and they don't do anything.
They kind of spaz out. It's almost kind of like a kill screen on.
It essentially is a kill screen on Pac-Man or Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
TZ, you gonna ask yourself what you played recently?
Well, I've really haven't been working too hard on playing video games. I've actually been writing a couple of scripts right now, but when I'm not, I've been playing a little bit of Minecraft. I'm working on a project in there that's kind of cool. I'm recreating Northern Hyrule from Zelda 2.
That's interesting.
I'm recreating a 3D map of that. I've also started playing Metroid Prime 3. And the one problem with it is I'm not really liking the controls. Because a lot of people have said that they really love the Wii controls over the GameCube controls, but my problem with the Wii controls is if you're locked onto an enemy, you still have to aim right at the middle of the screen to shoot them. And there's an option to change that where if you're aiming at an enemy, you automatically aim straight at the middle of the screen, but then you can't aim off to the side. So you could like be locked onto an enemy but aim slightly offside to shoot like their weak point on their shoulder or something. So it's kind of a compromise you have to do. You either get no aim assistance or complete aim assistance. And there's not really a middle ground between that. But other than that, I'm liking the story. I'm liking all the advancements of how they expanded the universe. One of the games I really liked is Metroid Prime Hunters, because that added a lot more characters to it, and you kind of got more of a lore. So I'm liking Corruption in that sense.
I can't really say much about Metroid Prime myself, because I haven't played it.
So, Johnny, where can we all find you watching glitchy games?
Well, you can't find me watching glitchy games, but you can find my videos at youtube.com/AchieveMoreJohn.
And Ozzie.
Hey, you can find me at planetarcane.blogspot.com if I ever do anything.
If you ever do, yes. And you can find me at TestZero.net, and you can see all of us at ReviewersUnknown.com. Everybody, tell us about your favorite glitches in the comments. And everybody, we will see you later. Bye-bye.